Welcome back to New Amsterdam Radio, the podcast for creators. It is I, the mayor, Flobo Boys, in the mayor's office, hanging with those that are doing the dang thing. And my guest is doing it from different ways. She's like an actress, a podcaster, producer as well. She can't be stopped. Please welcome Nicole Matarese. How's it going?
Hi, it's going really well. How's it going with you, Flobo? Thanks for having me on.
You know, it's kind of that Southern California cold. I'm wearing a sweater, but other than that, I'm fine.
I am totally with you on that. I am from the East Coast, and when I moved to California, I moved to LA, and I was like, I'm cold still.
Yeah, it thins you out. What part of the East Coast are you from?
Yeah, so I'm from Long Island, so lived in different parts of New York my whole life up until I moved to California.
Okay.
So I'm used to the cold. I'm just a baby about it. I don't want to be cold. I don't want.
Long Island is kind of, because I'm from Brooklyn myself. And it's interesting how there's two different worlds. Like Nassau has a whole different vibe than Suffolk. And then it comes to the whole thing as you keep going out there. But yeah, I came right here to the whole LA thing too. I'm gonna follow my dreams, and now I buy sweaters. That's pretty much how it's going.
Yeah. That was my LA vibe too. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm here in Hollywood. I'm ready to go to the beach every day. And then I was like, wait, I'm buying more sweatshirts. I should not have left them in New York. I should have brought them with me.
It's all a gimmick.
Yeah, so there you go.
We'll get into it just a little bit, but I was looking at your slash line because you have a lot of slashes. I mean, you do a lot of things. There's a question I ask for a lot of our guests is, if you're at a party and someone asks, what do you do? How exactly do you spin what you do to someone else? You may not even know.
Yeah, that's usually I'll say what I'm saying now, I do a lot of stuff.
Stuff.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I do stuff.
Yeah.
I usually it does, and it's funny. I was listening to your show just before, and I think I was listening to Tristan Milton's episode, and he said it depends on the party, and I totally agree with that. It depends on the party. If I'm at a corporate sort of event, I'll mention how my career has been in marketing. Pardon my dog, by the way. He's looking at the neighbors outside.
That's the same vibe. Who's that? Who?
Yeah,
Who?
Yeah, exactly. He's like, who are you? Tell me who you are right now. So if I'm at a corporate sort of event, I'll talk about my marketing background. I have two identities in that sense, right? I've been a marketer at my 9 to 5. But then if I'm at a artsy event, I'll talk about my slashes, as you call it, which I'm totally adopting. I love that phrase. I'll talk about, I'm an actor. That was my main passion since I was little. I saw Grease when I was very, very young, and I was like, I want to do what they're doing. Started with that. I'm a writer. I've written plays. I've written sketches. I've performed them live. And most recently, so if I'm at a party, let's say in 2022, one that's COVID safe, I would talk about my podcasts. And I host 2 of them, one of them being Totally Tunular, and the other one, which is my solo podcast, being Totally Recommend This Dude.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a whole suite of different shows on that network. Let's go right into it. Totally Tunular. I was kind of drawn by the logo there, doing the whole animation thing. You make these kind of reviews of some shows that are deep cut, some are popular, nostalgia. What was the idea behind starting that podcast, and how'd you get everyone together to make that happen?
Yeah, so I have to give credit to my friend James, who kind of got everyone all together. He is the founder of Fantasy Shed Productions, and he texted myself and some of our friends saying, okay, I have been in quarantine. All I've been doing is watching cartoons, and my grandma and my family members have been calling me lazy. So I want to turn this into something that's not lazy and show them, I'm doing something with my time by watching cartoons, right? So he reached out to us. We've worked on film projects together, and we're all Trauma people, I call it. Trauma is the longest running independent film company, and we've all worked together. And so James sent us a very funny text. I actually got the text on my birthday last year. That was you 3, myself, Ben, and Leo, have your lives together. I think that's what he said. He's like, you guys have your lives together. I want to show people that it's not just, guys hanging out in their parents' basement watching cartoons. I want to show the world that everyone, that everyone watches cartoons and anyone can enjoy cartoons. So I have to give credit to James for kicking the podcast off. And you're exactly right, Flobo. We are all over the map as far as cartoons go. We have your nostalgic shows. The first one was Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
We have, oh my god, so good. We have your modern day shows, like we watched Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix, which is one that I recommended that we watch. Really liked it. And we have nostalgic shows that I have never heard of, and that we just watched that I just watched rather for the first time recently because guests have come on and been like, oh, watch this show, it's good. One of the examples being the show The Critic. You've seen The Critic? Yeah, it's so good. And
it stinks.
it stinks. Yeah. And I don't think I would have necessarily heard of that show otherwise because it had come out in the 90s. I think I was a little young for the audience at the time, and it kind of fell off my radar.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to discover, and I love the show. So it's a really good way to talk about nostalgic shows as well as discover new cartoons.
Okay, so we probably have to start over. I think it's getting way too distracting. I tried. I think your dog is a little bit too loud. Is there a way you can come to the door and close the door so we can have a constant sound?
Yes. Give me 1 second and let me go
ahead
and
for sure.
I'm so sorry. Usually during this time he's in his nap. He is being a certain sort of way today. So give me 1 second.
Yeah, for sure. I'm here.
Hey. Okay. So, hi.
What up?
I'm so sorry. I'm so embarrassed. Like I said, usually during this time, he'll nap, and today he's just being a certain sort of way. I put him in the other room. I have a few doors shut. He might bark again. It might not be
that's fine. I think that it's not so much the dog bark; it's the different volumes, right? So it goes like running away and then coming back. I think that's what kicks people out rather than the actual barking. Because you do this enough, you could be like, "Hey guys, new show, animals. They're sentient beings." Now on, but it was kind of like there was some where it was like close to the microphone. That's all.
We're good. Okay, I'm so sorry. Like I said, I'm so embarrassed. He's usually I have him, like yesterday I had an interview and he was in his crate sleeping the entire time, and today he's just not being that way, so I'm so sorry.
No, it's cool. Promise for Robert, I don't want to start over, but like, well, I'll find a way to get back to that. But I think it's a cool story how your brain got started.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
New Amsterdam Radio, hanging there with Nicole Matarese. So we were talking this before we went live about Totally Tunular, which is a podcast. I listened to a couple episodes. What I like about it is that it's not just the new stuff, the old stuff, the deep cuts, the mainstream stuff, but all that mixed together. How that show come about?
Yeah, so my friend James reached out to myself and a couple of friends last year in 2021. Um, he actually texted me on my birthday, which was a really nice surprise to see on my birthday. I wasn't necessarily expecting it. He is working on an animated show himself called Underpowered, and I'll get to that in a little bit.
Mhm.
So he he has spent a lot of his quarantine watching cartoons, which I'm sure a lot of us have. I mean, I watch a ton of television still when I quarantine, and he was getting critiqued by his family. You know, get off the couch and do something. And he was like, he was like, I am doing something. This is, this is helping me with my work by watching cartoons. So he wanted to start a podcast where he talked to his friends about animated shows, about cartoons. So he reached out to myself and my other co-hosts Ben and Leo and
Okay.
said something to the extent of, you three have your lives together. I want to show people that it's not just, dudes in their parents' basements watching animated shows. It's people that are going out and doing things that are passionate about animated shows. So it really was James's push that got Totally Tunular going. And like you said, Flobo, we're all over the map
Mhm.
as far as what animated shows we talk about. We talked about Batman the Animated Series, which I know you said you're a fan of. It's a great show.
Yeah.
So good. We talked about Love, Death, and Robots, which is one that I recommended we watch, which is a Netflix anthology series by different artists. Each episode's really good.
Mhm.
And we talk about shows that I'm discovering for the first time that I didn't know about, but are nostalgic for other people. The most recent one being The Critic.
Love
Um,
that show.
yeah, it stinks. Yeah, as you said before, it stinks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
um, yeah, it's so good. And I was a little, I was a little young when it came out. It came out in the '90s, and I think I was not the target audience, so it kind of just fell off my radar. So I don't
Are
know if
you
I would.
calling old Nicole?
No, 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 no.
It was a little before my time, but it's okay.
No, I am not calling you old. In fact, I am very excited. I am turning 30 next month, and I have to
What's
say I love that I'm turning 30. I love
okay.
I'm very excited about it. So I am not meaning to say, that you're old. All I'm saying is that I don't think I would have seen The Critic otherwise, or rather I
Yeah.
would have just missed it, and I'm really happy that people came on the show and showed me a show that they're passionate about. So it's been really great. So that's kind of the background of Totally Tunular.
Yeah, make sure you check out Totally Tuned. It's pretty much a good show. But you had mentioned that you're looking forward to turning 30, which is something you don't usually hear, especially
Yeah.
here on the West Coast. We're also image conscious. Like, why are you like, heck yeah, man, 30, 30, bring it on?
Yeah. I it's funny. I Ever since I was like in college, I've been excited for 30, which you're right. It is weird. Um because I remember being in college and being like, what are 30-year-olds like? Like, I see like my peers and my professors are all like in their 40s and 50s, but like, where are the 30-year-olds? So I think it started with this like mystic, like, what's 30 like? Um,
Yeah.
and the reason that I feel like I really romanticized it, at least in my early 20s, was it felt like a time of knowing, right?
Mhm.
As opposed to a time of figuring it out,
Mm.
which I feel like my 20s have been, especially early 20s. There's that Blink 182 lyric, nobody likes you when you're 23. It's just like you feel like you're so confused in your life and you're like, what's my future look like? And I always felt like 30 would be like the beginning of certainty.
Kind of is.
Um,
Kind of isn't, but it's like both.
yeah, I'm sure I kind of romanticize it more so than it really. I mean, not to say that 30 won't have its downfalls, anytime will, but that was something to me that I was looking forward to, like a more, let's say, more certainty, like, you
Mhm.
know, figuring out. And I do feel like my 20s have been a lot of figuring it out, what I want to do,
Right.
which now I'm learning is not as limited as I once thought it could be. Like you said, I love the term a lot of slashes, and I'm going to totally adopt that. Um, it's been great to have a lot of slashes and to come into 30 years old with a lot of slashes. It feels like a world of opportunity.
Yeah. What did you think you wanted to do? What are you learning that you would like to lean into? Is that like the concerted difference, or is it kind of like a nuanced thing?
Yeah, it is different. When I was a little kid, I wanted to be an actor. When I got to college, I wanted to be a screenwriter, and now on the verge of 30, I want to be an executive producer.
Okay.
And I do think that was a good kind of evolving of
Mhm.
understanding myself in the arts and what I'm passionate about in the arts. I I love being at all angles of development. I just love to see projects be made and to see projects to be blunt.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I've come to a point where I see myself one day wanting to be the person that's like, fingers crossed, like I believe in this project. I just want to see it get done. And that's where I feel like the EP executive producer is a good place to be. So I'd love to see myself there.
Right.
Um, you know,
Basically getting the idea and saying, I believe in this, I believe in you. I want to find the money, I guess. Acquire the
yeah,
funds. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like I like it you know, I've been saying that like the 20s have been like discovery, and I feel like a lot of my, especially my early 20s, were a lot of like me kind of what's the term, like bootstrapping my own
Mhm.
projects, like being the director of things because I had to be, like I didn't have the money to afford another director, so I'm like I'll direct it.
Yeah.
And like working on friends and peers that are equally passionate about just getting a web series out or just getting a sketch out or just getting a podcast out. Um, and I see firsthand how challenging it is for independent artists, that I would love, like I said, like, fingers crossed this happens. I would love to get to a place where I'm like, I know you're a struggling artist. Here's like go spread your wings. I want to help you spread your wings.
Yeah.
So that's my goal. Hopefully by the time I'm 40, that's the next decade stretch.
Oh,
I'm like
sure.
looking at 40. Hopefully I could do that.
I have never met anyone who's, I assume, 29 be like, when I turn 40, woo it's gonna be a whole different thing. But that's
Yeah.
that's pretty cool because like
Thank
when
you.
I was in high school and I laughed at myself at this. They asked me, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And in my yearbook, it was I want to be a video producer. Which
Love
to
it.
me was like the end all be all. But like if you think about it, if you upload a video to YouTube on the very
You're
basic level, you're kind of producing that. So I like the fact that your vision has evolved where you have a focus, but isn't so narrow to be like, oh yeah, that's produced. Dang, now what? So it can grow with you, which is pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's, and I love that you wrote that too. I love that you wrote video producer. And it's true, the word kind of producer has changed over the last, let's even say 10 years, maybe 10, 20 years, right? Like what a
Mhm.
producer is. Um, and I think that's also, I mean, I'm thankful for the web, I mean, like the internet, it has its downfalls. There's a lot of information overload, but it's really giving a area for independent artists, particularly to show their skills and to show what they could produce. Like prior to the internet, I don't even know if I'd be able to call myself a producer, because I mean, a lot of stuff I produced is web series or
Sure.
podcasts, and
Sure.
and
Yeah.
so I'm really thankful for that space, and I do think that the existence of the internet has helped me get to a place in my life where I'm like, oh, I look at what other executive producers are doing. I could do that. Like you said, I'm excited for 40. I could do that at 40. I could do that at 50, you
Yeah.
know?
Well,
So,
I mean, the thing is about laying down the foundations, and I was checking out the podcast. Totally recommend this, dude. Where you
yeah.
are the lead, and you produce that, right, and write it as well. What was
Yep.
the idea, the spark that made you go, "I'm going into business, the Nicole Matarese business, and build this podcast from the ground up"?
Yeah, so I was finding myself I mean, I could blabber on and ramble on and talk all day.
Blabber, blabber.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I found myself sending a lot of text messages to friends and talking my friends' ears off, being like, "Oh, here's why I recommend this podcast." And eventually they're like, "Okay, okay, yeah, like I'll check it out." Like a lot of things are being marketed to me these days, like chill out. So I was like, you know what? This is so I was like, okay, you know what? I will record myself. I'll make a podcast of myself promoting shows. There are podcasts I'm certainly incredibly passionate about that are not mine. That I think change the way, or rather, could change the way that people think. So that was the kind of blueprint for my show. Totally recommend this dude.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that I have Fantasy Shed Productions, Totally Tunular, which is all James Boylan's projects. Kind of that kind of gave me the confidence and the push to go ahead and begin my own brand of Totally Recommend This Dude. As sort of maybe a podcast personality that people recognize me from Totally Tunular. People could know that I've been podcasting pretty frequently and could now check out like, okay, well, like if you like me and if you like my voice on Totally Tunular, maybe you'll like podcasts that I'm checking out. So kind of go from there. Yeah.
How would you describe like the kind of stuff you like? Are you into the weird stuff, like the center stuff? Or do you appreciate the mainstream? Are you kind of off the beaten path? Like, what's your vibe? What's your mix?
I definitely think I'm off the beaten path. I kind of think that's kind of my whole approach to art. Where I'm gonna sound like a broken record. I've been saying this a lot recently, but I think there's a lot of podcasts out there, obviously, right? And I think the difference between a good podcast and a great podcast is one that changes the way you think, which is similar to what I had said before. So what I really try to look for in the podcast that I recommend is like that extra, like, why, right? Like, why listen to XYZ podcast? And the two that are out right now, the first episode I talk about The Shrink Next Door, which if you like true crime, I would recommend it. And the reason I like that story a lot and I really fell in love with that podcast is because it changed the way I think about a true crime piece. It's not your average true crime story. And in fact, I'm not even sure if it is a true crime story, and that ambiguity was really interesting. I think there's like a good discussion to be had between people that listen to The Shrink Next Door, and one could argue it's not a true crime podcast, and one could argue it is, and it'd be like a great discussion. The other episode, the second episode I put out, is a podcast I've been listening to religiously ever since they put it out, is The Trillionaire Mindset. And the reason I really like that show is because it changed the way I think about finance and the world of stocks and money, to be blunt. And I think I had a narrow point of view, but prior to that podcast, when I thought of like the investing world, I thought of like the Wolf of Wall Street, buttoned up, white collar guy on Wall Street, Manhattan or something like that.
Right.
I didn't put myself in that world. And something that I really like about The Trillionaire Mindset is that it makes, first of all, it's very funny, so it makes finance funny. It's not so stuffy. And I could put myself, like, it's a world I realize I could step into, and it could take baby steps. I don't have to jump all in and be a billionaire to invest. You could go baby steps.
Right.
So I really like podcasts, and I think Flobo, your podcast does that too. That expands. Yeah, I think that expands the way we think about things. So
yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, make sure you put my show over. No, I'm just
yeah.
the mail.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't just say that. I was listening to some episodes this morning, and I already was like, wow, I like so and so changed the way I think about this, or so and so changed the way I think about that. So yeah.
Oh, I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. So I fell into this, because it was totally an accident doing this show. Sometimes in my previous career, I was a writer. One of my novels, my friends know this. I wrote a novel. I hated it. I wrote my first drafts by hand. And I hated it so much, I tossed into the fire.
Wow.
By the time this episode released, it'll be the talk I had with Jay Electra, and she was struggling with things, with projects she might not like. What happens if you watch something, you don't recommend it? Does it not become an episode? Do you just say, "Oh, sorry guys, no update this week. I saw this movie and it sucked." Like, what do you do? What do you have in place in case something you don't like?
Yeah, and it's funny because that ties back to us talking about the critic, right? Where he'll, if something stinks, he'll say it stinks, right? And I do think that's what makes my podcast different, is that I'm not necessarily a review where I'm going to, honestly, I don't talk about the things I don't like. That's really just it. And there are things that I do like that I also don't necessarily have episodes about. And I do address that on the show, just saying something like, maybe it's one that like I didn't feel like my heart in it. Like I
Right.
liked it. It was like nice for a couple episodes, but I'm gonna maybe spend my time elsewhere, which is
Yeah.
like, you know, and everyone's right. There's so much great content out there. Um, so yeah, which is funny. It's different from Totally Tunular because there have been shows we've like animated shows we've watched that I've been like, I cannot do this. This show is awful.
Yeah, what are we doing? Yeah.
Yeah, like there was, oh my gosh, I'm so we watched the Misadventures of Ronald McDonald for that show.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
had adventures and misadventures?
I yeah, I remember it was like something a little different than just like maybe it is just the Adventures of Ronald McDonald. I don't know. But oh my gosh, all of us were like, why do we do this to ourselves? So Totally
Yeah.
Tunular's, a little bit different where we'll watch stuff that we don't like, where totally recommend this dude. I guess you could go into it knowing I already have a bias that all the ones that I'm talking about I like.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a
So
good thing. Positivity is actually something that's very underrated, whether or not
yeah.
it's in any kind of art form. As a comedian, there was a time where if you were too positive, you were like, "Oh, come on, man, the real world's like this." But now we're seeing it switch the other way. I can't watch the news anymore. I want to listen. I want to laugh at something. So it is kind of a thing. So yeah, I respect the heck out of that. If I know that I'm going to get a little bit of slice of sunshine. I have a similar show, not to compare, called Flobo on Netflix, where I talk about Netflix shows. And my thing is always, even shows that I personally hate, I always ask the question, who is this for? And I think even
Hmm.
if I'm dunking on something, it's like, oh, by the way, your mom will love it. See you next week. You know what I mean? So I totally get that. I was
Love it.
actually uh, perusing the brand on social media. Check it out. Follow you on social if you haven't already. We'll give you a minute to put yourself over there in just a second. But you are an advocate for mental health, and I
Mhm.
understand how important that is to be a creator to go out there to produce things that are high quality content and not go crazy, for lack of a better phrase. What's been your approach to maintaining your mental health while you're creating?
Yeah, so it's so important. Oh my gosh, like and my mental health has been such a journey. When I got to I'll kind of start from the beginning and then get to that. So I really began getting a grasp on my mental health at the same time as I started to really consider myself an artist. And this was in college. I started taking my screenwriting classes around the same time as I started to like see a counselor at school
Hmm. Hmm.
and pursue other forms of mental health, care. So the two have really been simultaneous throughout my life, and I'm really thankful. And I found myself, and I just have to laugh because like I think what did lead me to the art is my confusion of my mental health because I like was having trouble in high school. I was having trouble focusing, right? And it was anxiety. I didn't know what it was, but it was anxiety at the time. My brain would kind of go all over the place. But if with something creative, it was fun. So I would get
Hmm.
my attention and I would like focus on like, oh, this is cool. Like this is
Yeah.
kind of like a break from my own brain.
Right.
So that
Nice.
was so that was great. Fast forward to today. I have been I have been in therapy for about a decade, talk therapy. And I think it's so if that's someone's point of view, or sorry, if that's someone's, they think that'd be beneficial to them, I would say give it a try. It has helped me so much to just like have someone I could just complain to about my life for like an hour, and they're not like, oh, you have it good, stop complaining. It's like, no, like just like
Yeah.
just let me just get this stuff off my chest. So if someone's considering going to therapy, I would say it helped me for a long time. I feel like I learned a lot from therapy. I posted something on my Facebook a while back, like which was like half tongue in cheek, half serious. Where I was like, I feel like therapy taught me more than school, which like
Yeah.
like like no disrespect to school. Like I am very
No shade to school, y'all. Yeah, I
yeah,
got you.
yeah, stay in school. I enjoyed my school, experience very much. I'm very thankful to have gone to school, but I think about how like my mindfulness has expanded so much from going to therapy or even like talking about my mental health. Um and this one's a basic one, but a good way that I find that has been good for my mental health lately has been yoga. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, and it's and I do yoga by Adrian, I want to say is her YouTube channel. I do it right at home. You know, like you get a yoga mat, set it up right in your living room or whatever. Um, put it on a YouTube channel and you can just follow along. It's super easy to do right from home now.
Okay.
So,
Great.
so that's been really helpful just to, you know, have peace
Yeah.
and quiet with yourself. And yeah, and it has been helpful for my art as well. So I'm kind of rambling about it, but I do think that that my mindfulness and my mental health um, awareness, let's say, has been only beneficial for my art. Um, I guess I just approach it a different way than I did maybe a decade ago. I'm a little bit more patient about my art than maybe I was before, where I was a little bit more self critical, and now
Yeah.
I'm
I mean,
patient.
that's a good sign that you are evolving as an artist, and talk about the critical aspect of it. I know when people start a craft, there is maybe a misjudgment in expectations, especially when you start. But you said you have years in your craft. What's something you've learned as far as goal setting is concerned? Do you set hard goals like that? Is it kind of like enjoying the process? What does it call like to do?
It's It's interesting. I'm still trying to figure out myself, Flobo. Sometimes it feels like things come on my, which I'm very thankful for. Like something comes my way, an opportunity comes my way, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, like I just like grab it in the moment. I'm trying to think of a good example of that. Okay, well um, here's a good example. I moved to Brooklyn from Long Island.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, I love Brooklyn. In I think the year is 2016, and I had some friends I hadn't seen in years that invited me to a comedy show of theirs. And like I said, I hadn't seen them in a long time, and I'm like a little, I'm pretty socially awkward in person. I actually feel like more comfortable on Zooms and stuff,
Yeah.
but I do have a level of social anxiety. So I was like, you know, kind of battling with myself, like, oh, do I want to go to the comedy show? Um, or do I want to just like stay home where it's safe in my bed watching Netflix, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. And I was like, something in me was like, you know what, like, I, maybe I'll get out there and really like enjoy this comedy show. I'm gonna go see these friends, right? And I did. Hadn't seen, like I said, hadn't seen them in like years, but was really happy I got together with them. And then from there, they were like, "Oh, so it seems like you have interest in like in comedy. You might be interested in this event." And it was like a free sketch writing class,
Oh,
so to speak. Yeah, and I, you know, I again had the same sort of social anxiety where I was like, "Oh, do I want to go to this class, or will people kind of think I'm like not good or whatever?" And then I went to the class and ended up loving it. And so things just kind of kept snowballing from there. So I guess I just find myself not trying not to be afraid of putting myself out there. And I think that's been really beneficial for the creative process. And um, if you're listening, you know, and you have social anxiety out there, I'm with
hmm
you. It's a lot. It can be kind of overwhelming, but I've been happy that I kind of pushed through, and it's helped me creatively to kind of
yeah.
put myself out there. So
And
yeah,
it's showing improving, the brand is building, and this is
thank
kind of
you.
the fun question I get to ask because um you are on social media and you have a presence on so many different platforms,
Yeah, thanks.
including Rizzle. So if anyone wanted to
Mhm.
connect with you, interact with you, how do they go about doing that? And tell me, what the heck is Rizzle? I had to go look this up the other day.
Yeah, Rizzle's great. Yeah, yeah. So I'll answer your first question. If people want to connect with me, definitely on Instagram. That's been my best. Like I feel like that's a good mix of like me sharing my creative art as well as like I'm responsive on there to networking. Where other websites like LinkedIn, I keep it like strictly business, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm on Instagram. Underscore NICOLEMATARESE. I'll just put that out there. That's my handle. Um, so yeah, so Instagram's a good place to connect with me at. Um, and Rizzle, yeah, so Rizzle is it's like TikTok, right? Which I think a lot of platforms are kind of figuring out how to be like TikTok because it's a it's such a popular site now.
Mhm.
But Rizzles like TikTok. They are based out and were developed in India.
Mhm.
So and it's a social media site. And I got a great opportunity from Rizzle in 2021, where I had a friend that was working there, and he said, pitch me a few ideas for some shows, and if Rizzle picks them up, you'll be an influencer on there. They'll give you a little bit of money to get started on it, and and you could run with it and create these shows for Rizzle. So I did. They did accept some of my shows along with my friends that worked on the shows together. And so, long story short, I became an influencer on there. Um, it's always like funny to be like, it's not TikTok, it's like TikTok,
Right.
but but Rizzle's a great website as well. I'm actually not. It's funny. I'm not on TikTok. I think because I was putting so much time into Rizzle, I kind of wanted to focus more so on that. Um, so um, so yeah, so long story short, created a couple of web series on there, and it was really good, Flobo, to do so because I didn't have to leave my apartment.
You're
You know,
right.
like
Yeah.
it was in the midst of lockdown. I was living in LA at the time and was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe like Hollywood, like I'm in Hollywood and I'm in my apartment,
Yeah.
couldn't get out. But we both of the scripted series I made on there was made remote with my friends. We were in different parts of the world, and or rather different parts of the United States, and made these shows.
That's so
Um,
cool.
so yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I was like, man, I was like, I never heard of this, but it's like millions of people on it. Like, I'm officially old. We were talking about that before about being old. I'm old because I was like, what's a Rizzle? But that's really cool to be an influencer on any platform. I know on LinkedIn it's called thought leadership or what have you, but having a following, not necessarily all of our goals are on that, but at some creative level, when you're an artist, you want some audience, right? You want some kind of like validation, and so we're props to you, right? Uh,
Thank you.
2000, 2021 is in the rearview mirror. 22, 23, 24. What does Nicole want to do? What does Nicole want to accomplish?
Oh, that's a great question. What do I want to accomplish? I want to keep. Okay, let me keep it basic. I want to keep producing art. So that's my like my simple baseline thing is like just keep doing the thing, right? Like just keep getting out there. I do want to keep networking and meeting more people and networking has I feel like sometimes it has such a stigma as like, oh, you're like using people, but that's not what I mean. I just like want to meet more people. I feel like because of quarantine and the pandemic and everything, it was kind of hard to meet people for quite a while. So I'm thankful for shows like yours, Flobo, and
Oh, right.
and other podcasts that are like, yeah, come be a guest. Like, let's like meet each other, So I do want to keep doing this sort of thing on other shows. So if anyone wants to book me, Matchmaker has been a great website for that.
Mhm.
Matchmaker FM. And yeah, down the line, like I said before, fingers crossed, would love to be an EP, executive producer, because it's hard to be an independent artist. Um, Hollywood's competitive. I mean, you know it.
Mhm.
It's hard out there. So to give people kind of like a helping hand, let's say, to be like, hey, I believe in your piece, like, you know, just go for it. I would love to do that one day. And if that happens in 20, I don't think it's going to happen in like 2025, but if it does,
Yeah,
cool,
yeah.
so that's what I see for myself in the future.
Yeah, all it takes is one step, and not only have one step, you have multiple ones. Totally recommend this dude and Totally Tuner. Available now. Make sure you check those out. Like, comment, subscribe. 5-star reviews because stars 1 through 4 don't work. Go before we get out of here. Now's the time to put everything over. Any projects you're working on that you just want to let everyone know about there?
Yeah. So I have a friend, my co-host on Totally Tuner, Ben, is directing a horror movie, if you like that sort of thing, called Curse of the Deer. It's coming out. I'm producing it. I have a part in it. It's going to be a really fun movie. If you like horror comedies, I would definitely keep an eye out for it. Um, Otherwise, please feel free to follow me on social media. Um, my podcast, Totally Recommend This Dude, is on Twitter. I'm on Instagram as just my underscore in my name. And yeah, be nice to people. That's what I keep saying. I said yesterday on the show too. Like, you know what? Let's all like, I don't know, just putting out into the world. It's hard out there. It's a tough world these days. We're all going through a lot. Like, I don't know. Just
In conclusion,
trying to,
don't be a jerk. That's advice.
yeah, I am trying to spread positivity to some extent, you know? So yeah, yeah.
Thanks so much for being on the show. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Flobo.